This week on the Legion Clubhouse, there's 2 of everybody?
They were the heroes from the future, teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities, and though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
Matthew, when they say that they kind of jumped the shark, starting to feel it.
This, for me, if we look at the Volume 4 Legion as a whole, this is not the issue where it jumps the shark, but the shark jumping issue for me is not far away. So I definitely see what you're saying. And I feel like after, has it been 7? It's been 6 or 7 issues of, oh, something's going on in the Weisinger chambers. Then we get the big reveal last issue.
Right.
I feel like something should happen.
Yes. Although technically last episode, issue 24, that would have been your end of season cliffhanger, and now we would be starting into your third year, your third season of stuff. So there is a lot of recap going on, but it's pretty clear that these guys should be the clones. I don't know why there would be any question about it. I mean, Lightning Lad has his arm grown back. Who is it? Lightning Lass has her leg grown, or not Lightning Lass, Shrinking Violet has her leg grown back. And then they're talking about there's a 17-year gap. And that would put a lot of the question about, well, what about before the 5-year jump? What about the 12 years before that? What's going on with all of those stories? What about the Great Darkness saga? Is any of that, did any of that happen?
And that really does get into the core problem of this idea. And this is another one of those ideas that we see in comics more than once. I mean, this is kind of a similar idea. Where goes the Legion? There goes the rest of the universe. It's just kind of the similar idea behind what they wanted to do with the Clone Saga, reputedly, was to retcon away the wedding by saying that Peter Parker had been a clone for the previous 30 years and that the real Peter Parker had been running around having his adventures. And on the surface of it, it's nice. It's kind of cool to have, the original 60s team with their bright colors and their costumes and their code names showing up in the middle of this horrifying, bleak 90s plotline. But on the other hand, you literally are kind of saying this wasn't the actual Legion for the past 30, 40 years. At this point, 30 years.
Well, I don't know. Is this the 60s version? Because they do say that it's been 17 years in the future.
This Legion is 17 years in the future in story.
Right.
So this is the Legion from approximately Adventure Comics 350-ish to about Adventure 375. One of the things that we look at here is Invisible Kid is clearly the Legion leader, which means this has to fall between Legion or Adventure Comics 348 and Adventure 371, where Ultra Boy takes over as leader. So that would be 1961, I think. But, it's that question of in-universe. Even if you look at it in universe, we're kind of discounting most of the Legion history with that.
Yeah.
Because
and it's
Adventure 350 isn't.
That's the other thing that makes me wonder if the Bierbaums are trying to say, hey, if this is the real Legion and those last 30 years of storytelling didn't happen, then maybe they're not the biggest fans that they think they are.
One thing, and I will cop to this, we all have our eras that we love the most.
Yeah.
And the Bierbaums are clearly
Silver
a
Age.
pair of massive fans of that Adventure Comics Legion. And we see it here because we've seen who are back in the Legion. Cosmic Boy, Chameleon Boy, Ultra Boy, a couple of characters who are quote unquote new, but essentially analogs for characters who would have been in the Legion back in those days. And what moments are we referencing the most? The Dominators, Universo, the Legion of Substitute Heroes. These are all concepts from that time with kind of a new hat. And honestly, I get it. We all do it. Everybody's guilty of going, well, the best Legion was X, but there's a problem with superhero comics, and we saw it with the Ultimate Universe. We're seeing it now starting to take place in the 5-year gap. We've seen it millions of times. It's starting to happen to Miles Morales. It's already happened to Spider-Woman Gwen Stacy. Alternate universes, and this is in quotes, alternate universes don't matter to fans. We don't think of them as real, quote unquote.
I think that may be a little bit of your prejudice seeping in, because I know for a lot of people of the Ultimate Universe at Marvel was a big deal, and that is their, whether you're dealing with Ultimate Peter Parker or Miles Morales, there is a lot of love for that. So to say that fans dismiss it
was no longer, I didn't say fans dismissed it, although there are fans who do. I feel like when it was no longer profitable, because the Ultimate Universe kicks off in 2001?
Somewhere
by
around
2010, it was no longer the new hotness. So what did they do? They started killing people, destroying
Jeff
things.
Loeb write it.
Right. They destroyed the universe. They literally just destroyed it, killed Wolverine, killed Cyclops, killed all of these major characters, and tried to do something new and different, at which point the fans stopped reading the book and kind of, it's definitely something that we do see in comics. And it may be, the advent of 50 years of this is an imaginary story and this is not an imaginary story. But I kind of feel like we are starting to see questions of, if this Legion is the real Legion and then the other Legion was not the real Legion, why should I invest myself in these stories? Because who knows what will happen 5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
My Legion is no longer the real quote unquote Legion. So it's complicated. It's difficult. And it's a very 90s concept. And, the Legion kind of played with it first and kind of ruined it for everybody.
I mean, I don't think they ruined it for everybody. I think if anything, they probably set up some guideposts that said, this way be dragons, here be dragons, because of the problematic things that we're starting to see in here, like poor old Jimmy Olsen Devlin. I know they just ran into him like last issue after they beat him up and left him lying on the floor bleeding out for 4 issues or 6 issues, something like that. But they pick him up, they dust him off, he's fine, and they're all like talking to him like they know him. And that's really weird too, because they don't know him, especially if their minds have been erased because Brainiac has tapped into the Dominator's systems and said, oh yeah, there's something in here about mind erasure.
Their minds haven't been erased yet. They're worried that the plan was to get them all fully powered with all of their powers and skills and then erase their minds. And they're worried, could Devlin be could any of us be mind controlled? Who can we trust? Who can we not trust? But I feel like that's also a very 90s concept to kind of have these characters dealing with. So seeing these characters so out of place, it is fun. But then we also have that moment where the Legionnaires see their headquarters crushed in Weisinger Plaza, and 20 characters in brightly clad costumes who are trying to stay underground walk into the middle of New York City and salute the Legion flag. And I'm just like, there comes a point where when you start mixing these concepts, you do have those moments where, is it noble for the Legion to do that? Yes. Is it incredibly stupid? I feel it is. And does it kind of make both halves of the story feel awkward? To me, I think it does. So
yeah, this story doesn't. I mean, this is a nice kind of like recap of, hey, it's been the entire summer, except it hasn't.
Mhm.
And we're coming back with our first episode of the season. And so here's basically a lot of people standing around doing a whole lot of nothing to fill you in on what happened and maybe set up a mystery for what's to come. And then it just kind of falls flat on its face. I think for me personally, the thing that really gives me a bad taste in my mouth is the incredibly horrible art in this issue. Everybody is elongated. Their faces are like longer than their torsos in most cases. It's just really bad.
It feels to me like a mismatch of pencil and inks, because I enjoy Dusty Abel's work in the general sense, but I also agree with you that there is a huge torso elongation problem going on here. Also, a very 90s moment in this issue. All the Legionnaires are nude when they come out of the chambers, the cloning chambers, whatever you want to call them, including Saturn Girl, who immediately ignores her nudity and starts getting to work. Pharaoh Lad still has his mask. Because
he's ugly underneath. He's horribly scarred.
Half naked people, that's very 90s, but revealing a terrible scarred face is not very 90s.
Although, technically, if people are getting their limbs back, his face should be fixed too.
Right? But I think that would negate part of your whole legend of, I don't know, Pharaoh Lad problem. It's just a thing.
Yeah, no, it is really, I don't know. It's a story that seems both rushed and stagnant at the same time, meaning that I think a lot of people will pick up this issue, even reading it for the first time. Last issue was the big reveal, then you had the annual, and then you've got this one, and then I kind of feel like, yes, get to the good stuff, and the good stuff doesn't come in this issue. And so I feel like at the time, if I was reading this, I would be incredibly let down by the payoff of this issue, which is, oh, you guys are hooking up with Universo and Grin and whoever else that's there. But there's not, if this were a true superhero comic book, the first thing that the Legion would do was start punching Universo and Grimm and all these other guys instead of like, now, let's just hold on and listen to this crazed man who's tried to kill us 1,000,000 times and do what he says. That doesn't make any sense either. So yeah, it's kind of a mess.
Yeah, very much so. And it really is, to me, an example of an issue where the potential of the concept and the idea of, oh man, we've thrown these characters 17 years into their future. Had this been done as a story from the perspective of the Adventure Comics crew, and they're in a terrible, evil story of the future, the upshot would have to be, well, we have to go back to our time and fix it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see the 5 years later starting with them waking up in the chambers and trying to figure out what the heck went on. That would be interesting. But unfortunately, you can't do that because in order for them to wake up in the chambers, you have to have the moon explode. And in order for the moon explode, you have to have Glorith rewrite history. And you can't do any of that if you don't have a group of Legionnaires mucking about for 23 and a half issues.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's almost like you can't just have them suddenly wake up. All these things have happened because it wouldn't make sense. There wouldn't be a resistance or an underground led by Invisible Kid 2, which is going to make the original Invisible Kid feeling really weird. Also, notice who's not here in this story. One of our very fine friends who went to another dimension and was never heard from again.
Well, he didn't exist yet at this point.
Well, how convenient. How convenient to rewrite that portion of history. Yeah. I don't know. It's just
he didn't exist until 76.
How convenient. But still, there's no way that you could get to this issue without the previous 24 issues, which really probably could have been compressed down to 12 issues, but whatever.
And I feel like you do make an interesting point, because this issue does feel at once rushed and also slow. Because it feels like we're just slamming, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. But we don't really actually do anything.
Yeah.
And part of that is, here are 20 characters. We're going to throw 20 characters at you. Plus, the underground, who are Grin and the Legion of Substitute Heroes. And we're supposed to look at those and go, oh, wait, who's this guy? Oh, it's that Color Kid. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's the
Color
next
Kid.
issue
Cool.
for sure.
Yeah, but they appear briefly when they meet up with Universo, because we do see Stone Boy, we do see Grin, we do see Color Kid really briefly. But it's a story that, again, from the perspective of a group going into their future, might have worked, but from a perspective of this young, idealistic team showing up in a crapsack future, I feel like it sets up both sides to be disappointed. Because if you're really into this dark adult Legion where there are shades of gray, and you have to work with Universo, or you have to have a conversation with Mordru to keep the time trapper who doesn't exist yet anymore. It's this is, we've seen, as you say, 2 seasons of kind of adult storytelling. And what's the biggest problem with the adult storytelling? Well, Darkseid is suffering from seasonal depression, and he just, he doesn't want to live anymore. That's dark. And then we jump right into this, oh man, here we are in the future. Oh, we have to salute the flag, and then we have to go and do our thing.
Yeah, it does kind of show the I don't want to say dorkiness, but the naivete of the 50s and 60s in modern era.
Schemes,
if you were the Bierbaums trying to say, look how ridiculous the Legion was back in the 50s and 60s for today's modern readers, and this is why we jumped ahead 5 years, I could buy that. And making it in grimdark, and saying, look how ridiculous these guys are. I could see that, but that I don't think is the point that they are trying to make.
No, I think the point is the exact opposite. I think they're actually trying to say that in this, dark and horrifying world, the idealism is more important than ever. And I don't think they did that. This issue does, however, have 2 important things that I feel you got to talk about. One, Devlin, who's been dying of null radiation for 11 million years, finally stops dying and gets the superpowers that we all know that he's gonna, because, oh no, now he's a Reflecto. And if you shoot him, he'll just mirror the energy blast away. So that's kind of neat. And of course, we do finally get an important piece of Legion information. Very important. Shrinking Violet sees Saturn Girl unclothed and specifically says in her journal, it isn't really made of iron, meaning the nickname Iron Butt Imra, which that's cute. That's the kind of thing that makes this teehee 16-year-old young heroes in a world of 35-year-olds who have to deal with black and white stuff. That's the kind of thing that I feel like maybe more of would have worked, but
I don't know, because it also seems like they are trying to undo Shrinking Violet being gay.
Not
I mean, she goes on about the guys, and then she goes on about Devlin, about how cute he is, and how cool he is, and all this kind of stuff, and how she's attracted to him. And also, I don't understand why she's using 5s instead of S's, but maybe that's what it is. And who is Ord?
Ord Quaalu.
Okay.
Is Duplicate Boy.
Okay.
Heroes of Lalor, who would be her boyfriend circa this era.
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that she noticed Saturn Girl could be something. We're not saying she's not LGBTQIA. She's not bisexual. She's not, a lesbian, whatever. I don't think they ever, and it's 91, I doubt that they would, but I don't think they ever come out and say, is Violet attracted to both men and women? Is Violet someone who's attracted to Ayla specifically and doesn't care if she's female. It's something that just sort of gets left there. But the fact that she did go, it's true what they say about the boys, but also notice Saturn Girl, I feel like at least does give us some continuity there where they're not, immediately trying to erase any gayness of the characters.
Kind of felt
That's
that way.
good.
Here's the one good thing I will say about this issue. It's not the worst issue we're going to read this week.
If you enjoy the show, we would appreciate your support. You can find out more and become a Legion Clubhouse member at patreon.com/major spoilers.
All right, let us take a look at issue number 26, The Battle of B.I.O.N. The battle you've all been waiting for.
The Terra Mosaic, Chapter 1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing.
Superman.
It's a thing. It's certainly Amazo doing Amazo stuff.
See, Amazo switches back and forth. Composite Superman has all the powers at once, I feel like. But either way, the B.I.O.N. unit, we find out that the B.I.O.N. unit, which is a computo matrix infused with other technologies and given the powers of all of the Legionnaires of this era, including, we do see Elastic Lad, their job is to protect the SW6 Legionnaires, keep them on Earth and in the Weisinger chambers. So it makes sense why the B.I.O.N. unit exists. Now, the fact that the B.I.O.N. unit immediately starts going, emergency, emergency, return to your chamber, Laurel Gand. Even though you're clearly looking at a 35-year-old woman and not a 16-year-old.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter for B.I.O.N. because he's going by DNA trace, not visual, right? So all he knows is Sarah Connor lives in this time period, and there's 3 people that are Sarah Connor, and he's going to eliminate them one by one until he finds the Sarah Connor. In this case, B.I.O.N. doesn't know that there's another Laurel Gand running around. His tracker locked onto her DNA, so for him, this is Laurel Gand.
Okay.
And I guarantee you that if the proximity alert of the other Legions members were close to where Laurel and B.I.O.N. were fighting, that he would pick up on that as well, but he doesn't. And so, and that's why when she leaves planet, he's like, well, I could search for these other Legion members, but my programming says my best approach would really be to go after Laurel. And so he does. And then that takes him to present day Legion HQ at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm. And throughout this issue, it is kind of interesting to see him go from, at the beginning, he's just like, that is irrelevant, beep, borp. He kind of feels like an android. But then as the battle goes on and he has to kind of get used to it, he starts talking about how he's going to, I don't have time to indulge in the sport of the hunt, but maybe I do. And I feel like it's that computo brain coming to the forefront that poses no limit on the amount of pain I might inflict. Computo is one of the few Legion supervillains who actually has a Legionnaire body count. So, that's important. He's killed a Legion of Superheroes member, or at least a third of her. So seeing this part of the issue, that is interesting to me, but also it does bring up, and I've talked about this before, when it comes to this Volume 4 Legion, when we get into the big fights, only super strong Legionnaires really get to fight. Joe gets to fight. Laurel gets to fight. We get a little bit of people who have, like, Lightning Lass will get in there with her berserk powers, but only the super strong Legionnaires seem to get to fight. But when they do, they get their faces caved in. We saw it with, Roxas, no superpowers at all, fighting Ultra Boy, takes Ultra Boy out. Now, he cheated, but he took Ultra Boy out. We've seen these moments where oh, well, we're going to have terrible, terrible things happening. And then in this issue, we see a character with the strength of 3 Daxamites and Ultra Boy just beat the snot out of Laurel, whose invulnerability really doesn't mean anything. Now she's got a broken arm. She's got her face, bleeding. Her nose is broken. I get what they're going for. I do. They want to make sure that we know that this combat is brutal and dangerous and blah, blah, blah fish cakes, just like, actual fighting. But I feel like, again, the effect that they get is the opposite of what they're shooting for. They're wanting to give us realism, and what it comes out feeling like is what good is super strength? What good is invulnerability? And if this had been a different Legionnaire, had this been Tenzil, had this been Cam, had this been Brainiac 5, would B.I.O.N have immediately just annihilated them in battle?
I don't know. I think I'm trying to figure out how. I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting when they have an all-out brawl. When he breaks into HQ, but it just seems like this would be a Matter Eater Lad solution or a Shrinking Violet solution, where you can just throw Matter Eater Lad at him or have him sneak up from behind. It's not like B.I.O.N has eyes in the back of his head powers. And just start chomping away at the guy, or have Shrinking Violet go in and start messing with his circuitry, and that's the end of it. And so I am interested to see, how the battle plays out. But I don't know. This seemed there were some interesting things in here as they go in, as the substitute rebellion group goes in to take out some stuff and secure a base. But there's also some lazy stuff in here that I thought was kind of lazy, especially on page 13, where Color Kid gets to do all his stuff, and it's just eight panels of just, hey, look at me coloring with these new colors,
crazy colors and sound effects.
Yeah,
and
no, it was lazy.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those moments where they're trying to do something. They're trying to remind us that the subs have been very much devalued going back a couple of years. We go back to that Legion of Substitute Heroes one-shot that you hated so very much, that I kind of like, but also don't believe is a good comic. So what we see is a moment where the subs come in and they bust heads, they kick butt and take names, everything is cool. But then immediately we get Grin going, oh, you guys suck. You're pretty colors, and you didn't give each other leprosy or set each other on fire. They're calling out, look, these characters aren't lame anymore, which has the effect of reminding us that these characters were, until recently, treated as lame. And I feel like by calling it out, having that, that moment that could be cool. I think it's kind of pretty. I mean, it's all wacky, flying, glow-in-the-dark colors. It's interesting at the very least, but then they immediately shoot themselves in the foot. It's an example of telling me rather than showing me. And the character of Grin, he's gross. He's just a floating mouthful of fangs. And what is his thing? Does he have a power? What even is he? Who cares? He's dumb. I hate him. But it's that realism, or I guess realism in air quotes, however you want to put it, that realism ends up causing more problems because in this comic book setting, they have the moment where it's like, okay, Color Kid would be useful in a fight. Color Kid could blind you with light and color and wacky, crazy effects. And then your guys, you just wear special goggles and you're fine. That's great. That's cool. But then immediately we kind of have to go back and, run over the point of, hey, remember these guys? Remember when they were stupid? They're not stupid anymore. I didn't care for it.
Yeah. This issue, in my opinion, was weaker than the previous issue, mainly because of that one page of just color. It's just like, okay, that's just being lazy.
It's tough, It's like there's an episode.
They could have used those. They could have used those colors and still put action over the top of it instead of doing a whole Batman thing. And
there's an issue of Alpha Flight where 2 characters with white fur are having a battle in a blizzard.
Yeah,
and it is 6 pages of this. It's 9-page grids where all you see are the word balloons and the sound effects. And it's white. It's literally, they didn't draw anything because it's all taking place in a blizzard. And it's one of those ideas. It's like, it's cute, but also, as you say, they didn't do anything there. So I don't know. It's a tough balance.
Yeah. So, both of these issues just to me didn't sit well. I mean, they're fine, but they're really not advancing a story. They give the illusion of advancing something and making it important. But at the end of the day, I just feel like there's a whole lot of wheel spinning for season 3. If you're not kicking the season off with a bang, then you are losing audience quickly. And I feel like if we were looking at this from that television show perspective, they're losing the audience at this point.
Agreed. And, it has been 6 issues of Devlin bleeding out in the sewers. It has been a long time since we really went, oh, hey, the secret underground of Invisible Kid working with Universo. That is something that I get why they want to remind us of it. And I feel like it's a good idea to remind us of it. But taking a whole issue to show us the Legionnaires in the sewers, and then a whole issue to show us, B.I.O.N beating the heck out of the most powerful Legionnaire while Universo runs a mission. This is not 2 issues worth of material. I feel like the 2 of them together could have been streamlined into maybe not necessarily even 1 issue, but part of an arc rather than a whole issue of this, then a whole issue of this, and then next time a whole issue of that.
I'm excited to see what happens next, but we'll have to wait until next time on the Legion Clubhouse when we ask the question, whatever happened to Dirk Morgana?
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.